Hello, welcome to the State of Decay 2 stream. I'm your host, Jeffrey Card, but let's stop looking at my face and look over here, because we got Robin Crew. She is one of our QA testers, but she is so much more than that. She's also a comics artist and does lots of cool stuff in many creative industries. And then next to her is some guy who wandered in who seems to be named Brant.
Who are you?
I don't belong here.
So we're right now. I've just started one of the later missions in the Builder Legacy before handing it off to Robin. So she can pursue that mission. She can also just run around and kill zombies, whatever she feels like doing. If you guys have any suggestions, that's great. Also, if you guys have any questions about doing QA in the game industry, questions about the comics industry, questions about art, questions about getting jobs in all these places, Robin is a person to ask.
I've done a lot of work between different industries and just sort of like art fields too, so I feel like, oh my god, these are a lot of people.
I just recruited some folks for the Builder thing.
If people have questions regarding that, I can definitely help on those types of things.
So, just starting with you, like what were you doing before you came to the lab? Like, tell us a little bit about where you came from when we found you.
A lot of freelance, actually. So, there is a few years where I was just doing work at Comic-Cons and stuff like that, where it would be like I'd be promoting my own like book projects, other people's book projects too. I would be taking on work for different clients, so making art assets for like some startup companies as well as indie projects. Just kind of like a lot of general stuff like that.
Is there a lot of stress involved in being a freelancer? Because it feels like the worst times in my life are the times I had to go to job interviews, and I feel like you're always interviewing for your next job when you're freelancing.
You are, and it's a lot of just kind of like trying to manage your own business too. So you're wearing a lot of hats when you're doing freelance stuff. So you need to know how to like manage your own like money and be able to write contracts. Jeez.
And we're interviewing Robin while she's trying to kill zombies, which is doubly impressive.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Look at that.
Look at all these friends.
There's increased horde size, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's, wait, what mode are we?
We are playing the game that is out there,
game.
out in the field, but we did
Okay.
our last update did add increased horde sizes. And
Okay.
this is a very advanced community, and so we're going to be getting the hardest of everything.
I just want to say too that the new modes that they're adding in are really fun. I've been enjoying those a lot too.
And that's all we can say.
Yeah, that's all I can say.
Joe
but
said
I promise
the same thing
they're
last
really
week.
good.
So yeah, people have been asking a lot about the upcoming DLC, upcoming updates, and we haven't been able to answer any of those questions, and that will continue. We're not going to be able to answer those. So you can ask all you want. We're not going to be able to give you solid answers until we're ready to announce stuff. But that isn't going to be too long, because we did say that we are going to do a lot of important stuff this year, and so if you stay tuned, you will get answers to your questions. Just probably not right now. Bilbo wants to know, do you do a lot of traditional art, or are you all digital?
I used to do more traditional art, and I want to get back into that, but currently I do a lot of digital, so I kind of work between a desktop computer that I built as well as using a Surface for when I'm kind of just like on the road, especially since when I was doing more convention sales and stuff, I'd frequently be on a plane, so when you're traveling that much, it becomes a lot easier to have tools that you can just use whenever. Oh, look at this car. It just became a lot easier to have digital to work with.
That makes a lot of sense. I've heard that the artists that I know usually say that one of the best things for developing skills as an artist, even when you're already a professional, is to just always be able to be drawing all the time, right?
And that is true to an extent, but I also think it's really important to be able to pace yourself, because burnout is a super real thing. And I'm sure anybody who's works in whatever field, you guys know how that can be, especially when you become like a workaholic or that sort of stuff. And it's just really easy to get caught up in your work. So just kind of knowing how to pace yourself when you want to be able to take a break and just not burn out.
It's a real skill to be able to know when to say when. I certainly worked way too much in this industry, like just trying to, make stuff better. But at some point, your returns are lower, and then your home life, if you have one, is suffering.
Yeah, it's always, you always feel like, especially when you're young and you're new and you've got a lot of energy, you feel like, well, the main thing I can do to stand out is I can do more than anybody else.
That's a really easy trap to fall into as well. And there was a recent discussion on Twitter that I was following where people were talking about how easy it was to fall into that, especially since like you hear a lot about like age difference and energy when you're comparing like 20 to 40 or whatever, but that's also really true when you're comparing like even 3 years apart or so. Like I have definitely like experienced like a lot of like energy level changes even with like small years, and it's easy to think that like part of that is burnout, and it is, but it's also definitely like attributed to aging and stuff too, and it's just knowing how to take care of yourself.
It's so weird. I used to really pride myself on being able to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning if I needed to come into the office early, and now getting myself to get up before 7 now that I'm 40 is just like ridiculously hard, and I don't feel like I changed except that I just don't have energy anymore. It's weird. Optimus Narkill wants to know about the comics that you've worked on.
So a lot of the comics that I've done have been more like smaller, like zines and things like that. Wow, this is that sure is a cliff.
That's actually really well done. I'm kind of impressed at.
Oh, there we go.
Hey guys,
you're gonna smash those guys too.
I can.
Oh,
I've gotten out of situations like this before without the radio command.
Yeah, before the radio command got in, it's like. So I imagine you probably had a lot of experiences where you're trying to test one bug, but some other part of the game interferes. Games like this, where it's just all about different systems colliding with each other, that's got to be just crazy for a tester.
Yeah, so there'll be like points like this where like you're trying to like work on one thing, and then I feel like I'm getting really distracted too by trying to like talk and do things at the same time. So I'm definitely performing terribly right now. I'm sorry to everybody.
That's okay. And if at any point you want to hand off to Brant and switch, that's totally fine too.
But oh gosh, like some of the bugs I've encountered, like I feel like some of the weirder ones are always like revolving around like physics or the cars.
Yeah.
You mean our real world perfect physics?
Yeah. are just super great physics. Oh, what are you doing here, dude? Oh. Hey. Oh, I thought.
He's like, oh, by the way. Oh, hi.
Because I've seen a thing previously when testing where it would try to play like the animation for the Juggernaut, and if you pulled up the debug, it would show that it was attempting to, but he would just stand there and chill. And I thought that's what was happening for a moment there. And I was like, oh my god, did I find something during stream?
I mean, see,
worst things have happened.
Juggernaut was taking our advice and just relaxing, knowing when to say when.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, exactly.
Even for the Juggernaut.
Nightmaker wants to know if we have favorite character models in the game. Outfits for the characters, or...
I like the weird animal hoodie dudes.
That's kind of the... Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. The donkey might be my favorite.
I seriously think we should stop making games and just be a hoodie company.
Yeah, there you go.
Because Susan, the person who made the clothes, is brilliant.
Yeah, no, the stuff that she came up with is just insane. It all started with, we had this one character with a shark hoodie in the first game, and now we've just got this tradition of the weirdest hoodies that
I
people
think
could possibly
that
have.
you need to just like come in one day just like wearing that, or like get some State of Decay cosplayers or something. Just like have like the hoodies and.
Well, some people have actually made the hoodies. Somebody made a really, several people made a really good shark hoodie.
I want one.
Yeah, I think our former production director actually had one, which is pretty fun when she'd wear that into the office.
Yep.
So we did collect some questions from social media. Let's see here. Oh, so Hyrule Haven Hero wanted to tell Robin, you have an impressive and tough job, Robin. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
So I actually am curious. When I read his question, made me think, like, what surprised you about doing QA when you got into it for the first time? Like, did you have illusions about it before that were shattered, or?
Well, like I know, like as a teenager, I was always like, oh my gosh, is it just like you're just playing video games? And I mean, as you get older or more experienced with games, you understand that that is not the case. But a lot of when I first started testing games came from like smaller projects. Oh, hey, buddy.
And don't worry about getting my characters killed. It's everyone's favorite thing that happens on the stream.
I'm sure everyone will be very, very excited for that to happen.
But anyway.
But yeah, so a lot of testing has to do a lot more with discipline, I would say, than just enjoying it. So like when we're testing stuff, we'll get like a list of like, here's different passes for checking the health of the game. I'm just distracted with this, man.
That's fine. So when you talk about a pass, is that like a particular route you follow through the game, a series of steps that you do to make sure that something's working?
Yeah, so it'll be like, it'll have questions like, does XYZ work? Does everything function properly? And then you have this list you go through, and you check off whether or not the item in particular is functioning. So if you have something where it ends up failing, you end up writing a bug down on what's going on exactly with that, or how you found the bug in particular.
Yeah, it's easy to find bugs, but it's
harder to fix them.
hard to like figure out why they happen, and we rely on these guys to give us as much info so that we can actually figure out what's truly going on.
A big part too is I think that a lot of people assume that QA is the people that fix bugs, where it's more primarily our job to find stuff like that. So
and not just find it, but like thoroughly document it so that
Yes.
we can just drop right in with a bug you've written for us, and we know exactly what to do to make it happen again, to test it out, and to find the problem, find the solution.
What's the biggest crisis you found in QA? Crescent Empress.
Like biggest crisis?
Yeah, like Game Breaker or something like that.
I know that one of the bigger like game-breaking issues that I've run into was there was a whole thing with like there was like something in the install where it was like that flighting test thing where you couldn't. Oh, geez, hi.
Wow.
Feel free to focus on the game if you want
Wow,
to.
that is a welcoming committee.
It truly is. But there was like an issue with. I'm gonna hand this over to you so I can
go
talk
for
better.
it.
Where it was like a certification from like the Microsoft store where it was like, oh, you can't properly install this, like you don't have like the correct licenses, and it's like, well, we're the company, we own this game, why don't we have this? And like it's weird because I feel like I also sometimes see discussions where people will be like, oh, well, this model is being weird, this breaks the game, but it's like that breaks immersion but not necessarily the game. So like we're first finding things where it's like it stops the game from playing, or just shuts everything down, or you can't even launch it. So like that's kind of like the first thing we look for, and sometimes
like
install stuff.
I know that there was a programmer who was just talking to me this morning about the fact that at one point somebody had found an issue where people literally couldn't join multiplayer games, and it was a really scary sounding bug. but it turned out it was when somebody was using we have a system that allows you to use text chat under certain circumstances. It's an accessibility feature.
Right.
And if somebody was using text chat, the game, when it tried to tell, when a client would be trying to come in and join their game, instead of trying to join the game, it would be trying to join one of their chat messages, which is not a game.
I mean, it could be a game if you try really hard.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was completely breaking the game, and it was coming from a weird part of the game where you wouldn't imagine that in advance. And when you're working on the text chat system, you're not imagining you're breaking multiplayer.
Yeah.
You know, and so the person who's working on the text chat system, they're not testing to see if multiplayer is going to break something.
Right.
And so it takes someone like you going through an elaborate checklist, which, you know, you read the checklist and I imagine you're like, oh, that looks like the most exciting thing I could ever be doing with my day, right?
Right.
But if you don't do it, we don't find that stuff, and then people can't play the game.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's a big deal. Other questions that we have include, let's see here. So Lee Stevens wants to know if we've seen the issues with vehicles apparently duplicating and exploding at players' bases.
Yes. That is my favorite bug, and I'm so sorry to everybody who's gotten that.
I especially love when they don't explode and they just end up on top of each other in awkward
just
positions.
chilling.
They're just like they're cuddling or cuddling to cuddle.
Just car snuggles. That's
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, I think we should call it the car snuggles issue, and it sounds like something we shouldn't fix. It sounds like a feature.
That is definitely a feature.
Yes, absolutely. I think my favorite video of it that got submitted to us was there is somebody playing on Twitch, and I'm not sure what language they were speaking. It was not English, but the bug just happens, and then there's like an abrupt like what the fuck just in the middle of that, and it's like yeah, that's fair. I would feel the same way about that.
So I assume we've documented it, and at some point someone's going to try to fix it, but we might not even know what's causing it yet.
Well, I actually was looking into that issue on Friday, and I know a few people are too, but it seems to be really difficult to reproduce that bug. I know that we're talking about it possibly has to do with like calling in vehicles, but we're not entirely sure yet. So we've been playing around with like different cars and different scenarios, and part of that is also like checking through like similar situations for when those bugs have been submitted. So like when you guys do submit bugs, oh no, but when you do submit bugs, if you have as much detail as you can about like stuff like this is the map I was on, here's like where I was on the map as well, here's like a mission I was on, like that gives us more information and makes our jobs way easier.
Yeah, so I put on the screen the link to support.stateofdecay.com, which is where you go if you have bugs that you want to report. And so those really do go to our test department. Joe Swarner goes through every single one of them, and the ones that are new that we need to investigate, he passes off to the full test team, and we try to give them a real try. Because one of the big problems that we have is sometimes we can know that a bug is real, but if we don't know how to make it happen on command, the programmers can't set up situations, because we have tools that let us look at what's going on in the game and figure out what went wrong when a bug happens. But if we can't force the bug to happen, if it just happens seemingly randomly and no one knows why,
that's when it gets a lot trickier for us to work on and do like that whole like mystery solving.
Yeah. And that's one of the issues, like the reasons why we need like highly skilled test departments, is because that's what we rely on you guys for, among other things, is to find us those repro steps so that we can make
Otherwise,
a bug happen.
we are
on command.
lost.
Yeah,
we are utterly lost.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to switch out because I took a lot of van damage with
Van damage? Is that damage to the van you were driving?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, van damage. Right.
Come on now. Oh, hey, what?
So
I have like 30 people in my base and they just let that guy walk in? Come on, people. What are you doing? Nobody's here.
So
this is a little creepy now.
We got a couple questions from social media that I think I can answer. Stephen Irizarry asks, can you recruit the people in the zombie slaying enclave? Their outfits are amazing. So that's another vote for somebody's favorite outfit. We've got this one certain enclave that's got unique outfits that nobody else gets, the zombie hunters. And right now, they are the only ones that have those outfits, I think.
love that enclave, too.
They're really cool.
I love the missions that I gotten with them. I remember like they were like one of the first ones I ran into, and I was testing here. I'm just like, what are these cool dudes? I love these. Is like everybody like this? And they're special.
They had like zombies on chains and things like that. They're doing all this weird stuff.
You just walk in, it's like, oh, these guys they're sure having a fun time with whatever they're doing in here.
Yeah, so we had to make them non-recruitable because they had a lot of unique dialogue. And the way it works is we've got 14 playable voices for our characters. And so each time we added a line for a playable character, we had to record it with 14 actors. And, multiple sessions down in Los Angeles. And it was really expensive and really difficult. And so when we wanted to add a bunch of new dialogue to make these interesting new enclaves like the cannibals and the zombie hunters, we had to add a bunch of dialogue that we couldn't give to all 14 voices. And so our lead writer devised a scheme where we could come up with some voices that didn't have to record as much dialogue, but you couldn't recruit them and you couldn't play them. And so we had to make that community, that enclave, unrecruitable so that they could have dedicated voiceover lines to tell their story.
That makes sense. I tried very hard to recruit them. I couldn't, I'm sorry.
But that doesn't mean we can't conceivably make another enclave that uses those outfits. And so I've made a note, since I got that question, I made a note that maybe that's something I can look into to see if there's a way we can get those outfits onto recruitable characters somewhere in the game. But those outfits are also very exclusive, and they're not on every face, and they're not, they're very limited. And so it takes some gymnastics to make it work without a bunch of errors. So give us some time, but that's a worthwhile question. Another one, Dion Baptiste on Twitter asks, what caused the bug that makes stealth characters continue to move automatically while crouched? Did you see that one?
Yes, that thing drove me nuts, but we figured it out. But so it looked like it was like a setting where when you were crouched, it was supposed to be like the speed is set at 0. Someone accidentally set it at like 0.5 or something. So you'd just be like constantly like sneaking around and just.
Yeah, I think that it kind of came from the fact that I believe that the stealth movement and the regular movement were made by different people at different times. And so they kind of were constructed in different ways. And so at one point, we had to make a change to the way we had a bug that people were complaining about a lot where they couldn't get their characters to walk. They were either standing still or jogging. They would just jump straight into it.
I ran into that later, yeah.
So I think it was the fix to that caused the other bug. Because whoever fixed the issue with people just jumping to jogging with never walking, they moved the threshold for when characters walk, and it worked great for normal walking, but they didn't check stealth, and stealth was built differently, and so when they moved that threshold, stealth was just like, I'm moving all the time! and that was it.
And like that's like also like something that you sometimes run into when you're working between like multiple programmers, and it's like another reason that's all the more important for testing because different coders have like different ways of working on stuff, and then it's easy to accidentally gloss over like a small detail like that somebody else had put in there.
Yeah, I've run into so many problems where like I introduced a change that I thought was just a very small change and it only affected one thing, and I tested that one thing and I'm like, yay, my change works, and I check it into the game and everything's fine. And even the initial tester who's assigned to check it out, they check it out like, yes, this looks okay. And then it's another tester 3 weeks later who realizes that I broke something really on the opposite side of the game that I didn't realize was connected. And so if we weren't running like ad hoc tests and we weren't going through these checklists, we would miss so much stuff. And when it happens, it's not really anybody's fault, right? It's just part of the nature of the beast.
These guys just gave me free food. I am really skeptical.
It's poisoned.
It's like, what do you do?
Is it the mystery meat?
No, these are decent people.
Oh, what? Oh, her name's Hipper. I like Hipper.
Oh my god, no, that reminds me too, but like one of my favorite things about doing like QA stuff is just seeing like the weird names that you guys put in. Is that you? That's you?
Mostly me.
Right there.
I ran into somebody last week on an enclave named Sans, and I just like took a screenshot of it, and I was like sending it to other QA people and be like, oh my god, he made it into the game. I can't believe Sans is here.
I think that might have actually been a request by my children, because they were super into Undertale when we were working on this.
Well, like the character had a hoodie and everything too, so I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, so there's somebody on our Facebook page, John Paul Strange, I think is his name, who posts all of his favorite characters, and he exclusively recruits characters with cool nicknames. And so I keep getting to see characters with these names posted up there. There was actually one that came out recently where I had put. I think I might have already told this story on the stream. I'm not sure. I had put the first and last name separately of one of my friends in the game industry into the game, and somebody posted, "This is one of my favorite characters. Look at his awesome stats." And that first and last name had come together again on that character, and so I got to post it to my friend on Facebook, say, "Look, you got into the game!" And he's like, "I can't even put myself in my own games." So it was a rare opportunity.
Oh,
It seems to be the rule though that the people who it is really their name never see them.
Oh yeah, like somebody I think in the chat earlier asked if we could put a character in the game named David White, because that was like their grandfather's name or something like that. And I'm like, yes, there is a David White in the game. The name David is in the game, and the name White is in the game. And if you just keep rolling for literally ever.
Well, I know that they also like scan some people into the game too for like the face
faces?
models, and I was one of the people who did that because I was like, oh my god, fun. So I've been joking with my friends. I was like, yeah, you'll just play the game and find me with a gun just hanging around in there and just.
Yeah, it is fun when I think there's a guy who's with he used to actually run some of the streams that we did over at Microsoft, and now he does a bunch of other like media stuff with Microsoft. His name's Ricari, and his face is in the game.
Oh, yeah.
And so whenever he's promoting State of Decay, like he always ends up running into a character that's got his face on, and he's really impressed by it.
It was a lot of fun at PAX East last year. He came up just when somebody was playing his character. I think it was actually Fallout Girl was playing his character, and she got him killed right in front of him while he was watching.
So Nanode wants to know, speaking of vans, what was the inspiration behind the Wizard van, and can we expect more Wizard-related content in the future?
Yes, we're switching over to a full fantasy Dungeons and Dragons
Just
style.
give everybody like a cool wizard outfit.
Wizards versus zombies. That actually...
Make the zombies tiny dragons.
Tiny dragons.
Tiny dragons.
I like it.
Uh,
Oh, there goes the door.
I was cracking up when that van thing was announced for us to test, though. There's just like, all right, holiday content. It's a wizard van, and I'm just like, it's a wizard what? But that art is so fun, and I personally like appreciate like the really goofy stuff, like the van, and then like the weird zombies that you can find, especially like when you're working on playing this for hours a day to like find weird stuff that you're trying to test for. When you eventually like run into something that just like is more out of the norm and just makes you laugh, it just makes going through your day like a little bit more enjoyable. So I appreciate the wizard vans.
Magic Man 79 says, I have way too many vans on my map from those missions that spawn vans. Is there any way to get rid of some vans?
I mean, you can crash them, but
yeah, I understand the concern. Like, we've got all of our missions that spawn cars. If you just ignore them for a while, they will spawn 1 million cars.
oh,
And it's a problem, and we've been looking into possible answers. The problem is that there's no easy answer to it. Like, every solution has got some terrible cost to it. So we're still working on trying to figure out the right answer. But it's difficult, because each time a mission spawns, it tries to spawn everything fresh, and it's not really aware of what it did the last time it tried to spawn.
because I feel like the default answer I'd want to give for something like that would just be like somehow like being able to keep track of what car is spawning when, and then like have a despawn limit for specific cars after a certain point in time. But at the same time, I don't code, so I don't know how horrible that would be.
Well, that makes sense, and so like, we have talked about maybe having, if whenever a new car is added to the game, trying to get rid of an old car. The problem is it's hard for us to know which cars the player might care about, because I mean, if a player drives a car, if they put stuff in a car, we know they probably want it. But if you were just constantly losing cars because we were invisibly spawning cars somewhere else, like, we can imagine all of these downsides. And is the downside worse than the current problem? If we don't know, usually we're going to err on the side of, like, not changing it, because what if we make it worse? You know? Because you've seen it happen worse. Like,
I've seen so much with the cars.
Well, let's see here. Living Echoes asks, speaking of dialogue, have you guys added any new dialogue recently? I've noticed people saying some new things recently.
Yes, that has made me so happy because I don't have to listen to like the same lines. There's been a new audio that was recorded, and like I started noticing some of that being implemented into some of the stuff we were testing. But
Yeah, I think basically each time, because all of our characters are recycling voices all the time, each time we go into the recording booth to record new stuff, we have an opportunity to just flesh out, some of the characters and record some of the lines that we had to skip or cut last time. And so I know that Andy has been staying on top of that, and each time we get the opportunity to record new stuff, he tries to weasel in new variants of lines and sneak more stuff in. Yeah, no, he's weaselly, but in a good way, He's a weasel like you'd want a weasel if your life was full of snakes, right?
Wow.
So our life is full of snakes, and Andy is the weasel who gets rid of those snakes.
Nice. Good save. Good save. All right, so there's not one but two juggernauts.
have fun.
What's that?
Have fun.
Yeah. And I got somebody who's not good at...
So KNT asks, which new Enclave bonuses have been added since the Zed Hunter update? The new ones I found so far are Quick Supply Drop and Bed and Breakfast. There's also a Dinner Theater one that's kind of like Bed and Breakfast, only I think Bed and Breakfast gives you food and beds, and Dinner Theater gives you, I think it was morale and food, something like that. The thing is, we added like 20 or something new Enclave benefits, and so I don't have the list in my head.
I don't have like the full list on hand either, but I do remember I feel like I've been seeing like more stuff popping up lately with that too.
Yeah, we realized that that it's a lot of work to keep an Enclave your friends. And so we wanted to add better benefits to make it more worth it, so that the time you spend going back and giving them rucksacks and stuff like that was actually worthwhile.
Oh, good.
So, okay, Richard Rivas has a question for you, Robin. As open worlds become the norm, and I don't know if they become the norm necessarily, but there definitely are a lot of big, expensive open worlds being built out there.
Hit me.
Do you predict bug testing becoming easier due to tools and techniques people are developing to support that, or do you see it just getting more complex?
I think it's like a little bit of both, because like there's definitely better tech that's being implemented to like help out with that, but also I sometimes worry about like when people like bloat their game too much with too many features in like an open world, and I'm sure like people have seen that before where it feels like there's too much tacked on to a game, and then it's kind of like all these things are conflicting with each other, and then it makes it a lot harder to know where to look.
Yeah. It sounds like, it's just really hard to stay ahead of just because as you add new systems to a game, the complexity of testing it goes up exponentially, right? It's not like, oh, I've added 3 new systems, and so it's plus 300% harder. No, it's like plus 3,000% harder.
Because like everything is like reading into each other too, so it's just like extra layers of complexity that you're going through.
Yeah.
And then the next question is it true that developers are the worst like bug reporters? Because we'll like, got a bug, and then that's it.
I mean, I feel like I don't really hear too much from you guys about like when bugs have popped up, but I think also in general, like if developers and people who are doing QA can be able to like learn that sort of like lingo for each other better to like intercommunicate more, then that makes everybody's jobs better.
I know I've been chastised for my lack of info when I report a bug. They're like, this is useless, utterly, completely useless.
Yeah. When I know that a bug I'm writing is going to go directly to another like designer, I'll sometimes be flippant and weird and silly in my descriptions. But when I know it's going into the test department, I'm always like, man, I don't want to embarrass myself in front of these testers. I need to have elaborate repro steps and what I expected versus what I got and all of the format. Because I don't want you guys judging me and telling me that you're not that I'm not a good enough tester. Like I've got to be. I feel like I got to try to do to do the real work. If I'm gonna be acting like a tester and writing bugs, I got to do the work like a tester. But it's a hard job. It takes like you said, discipline. Like if you were building a tester character in State of Decay, discipline would definitely be your wits specialization.
Nice.
Maybe resourcefulness too. That's a pretty good one. So the Witch King had a quick question about State of Decay 2. He asks, this is a guy on Twitter, he asks, can the game in State of Decay 2 last forever? Can you just play one community indefinitely?
I mean, technically you can. Like, if you're just like, my legacy? Use Blood Plague Hearts? You can just keep, like, going. But, I mean, of course, like, missions will keep spawning, and it just kind of depends on how you want to play the game, especially since, like, a lot of these open world games do kind of emphasize, like, making your own experience with what they give you.
Yeah, so like if what you want is an experience where you're trying to just last as long as you can, then the game will offer that. But if you're looking for a sense of accomplishment and completion and getting prizes for doing things, ending your game is probably what you want to do. And it really just depends on your playstyle. And
the main catch with, like, if you just want to keep letting missions spawn too is, like, eventually, like, it can wear on you. And like there's other open world games that I've played before, like, testing, and, like, I would just keep doing that because it's like, I just want to keep enjoying the game, and then it got old eventually, and so it's really, like, your mileage may vary with that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
No.
especially if you really like a game and you don't want to get tired of it, definitely try to play in a way that avoids you getting tired of it. Because I've done that too before, where, like, I've just loved a game and I wanted to play it forever, but then I played in such a way that I made it more difficult for myself to enjoy it long term. So you've got a broken weapon and a crossbow, and you're trying to deal with you got to get in that car, use the fire. Oh, you're just trying to get the crossbow shot in this guy, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, good luck. It's a good thing I don't have a huge investment in this character. So one thing I wanted to bring up, by the way, is we've got a community event that's going on. Well, it's not quite going on yet. It starts officially this weekend. It's called Undead Trials 3. You can imagine it is the third of the Undead Trials events. And I think that Megan can probably pop the link to the registration into the chat. But basically, the idea is it's open to everybody. So if anybody wants to sign up, it's people need to sign up to join a 3-person team to play State of Decay 2 Daybreak. And basically, you spend 4 hours with your team trying to rack up as many points as you possibly can. There's a bunch of rules. If you go to the registration site, you can see what the rules are. You can track it down, I think, on the Discord. But basically, there's a bunch of different ways you can play Daybreak and accomplishments you can do in Daybreak that will win you points. And you're just trying to spend 4 hours getting as many points as you can. And whoever wins wins a bunch of stuff, like a State of Decay t-shirt, I believe. And I forgot what all of the prizes were. There's prizes. Then the whole team wins prizes.
I'm gonna give original art again as prizes.
Well, there you go.
Oh,
Original
cool.
art from Brant is one of the big prizes, and there's going to be 3 winners this time, and so you got your work cut out for you.
Yep.
But if you register today, because today is the last day to register up until midnight tonight Eastern time. If you register today, you also are in a drawing for a prize just for registering.
Nice.
So follow the link that Megan's going to put in the chat, and if you want to be involved, you don't even have to be particularly good at the game. Just get on a team and help your team out, and try to do all the crazy stuff in Daybreak that you can. So, and thanks to Derek Blaze for setting that up. He's usually in our chat. I don't think he's in our chat today, but he's been such a huge leader in our community, setting up these events and supporting them. That definitely, if you're at all interested, go check it out. Go follow the link and see what it takes to get involved.
I think she needs a rest.
And speaking of prizes, in about 15 minutes, we're going to do, at the very end of the stream, we're going to do our giveaway. So if you know some trivia about the weapons in State of Decay 2, stick around and see if you can win a State of Decay 2 pin. So with that talked about, one thing I wanted to mention, something you want to show us?
There's a question. With everything that's being added, will there be new achievements as well?
Yes. So each time we do a major update to the game, we're allowed to add several hundred points of new achievements, and so we try to take advantage of that every chance we get. In fact, I just finished finalizing the official data for the next dose of achievements we're going to drop. I didn't write this set of achievements. That went to, I believe, it was a combination of people. I think it might have been Henry that did a lot of it. Anyway, the point is, I just finished entering a lot of the data. There's a bunch of new artwork from Doug Williams illustrating the achievements. So I'm definitely looking forward to sharing those. Partly because whenever we put a stream up on YouTube, the thumbnail for that stream is based on Doug's achievement artwork, and so I'm just really happy to have more achievement artwork to draw from to make those thumbnails. So
I gotta see like some of the new achievement art today, and I love everything Doug makes. I just want to say.
Yeah,
So-
his achievement art is fantastic.
he comes up with the most disgusting things to draw pictures
I
of.
love his stuff so much.
There's one achievement that I believe is called a pound of flesh that's upcoming, and he just made a box full of flesh. No particular kind of flesh, just flesh.
So that's
Squished up.
That's actually Doug's forte. is
Just making things out of
flesh.
meat.
Yep. Anything that's meat related.
So maybe you know what? Maybe I'll go grab that piece of art and use it for the thumbnail for this video. So if you're watching this on
Yes.
YouTube late, go check out the thumbnail for this video. I'm betting it's a box of meat. So I know that.
No.
So
I
we've got
missed.
later on, I think in a couple of months, we've got Emerald City Comic Con. It's hard to say Emerald City Comic Con. Emerald City Comic Con coming to Seattle, and I believe
yeah.
that you and Wonder are involved.
We're doing a thing. I don't know how much detail I can say about it at the moment, but we're doing a thing for Comic Con. So
if you
keep an eye out
guys,
for that.
yeah, so if you guys are in the Seattle area and you'd like to hear more from Robin and from our communications director Wonder, who I think a few of you have seen on the stream, keep your eyes on the programs and the plans for Emerald City Comic Con because they've got some thoughts to share with folks.
Make this guy into a porcupine here.
So yeah, one thing that I definitely made sure to do was put your Twitter handle there on your name tag, Robin.
Oh, boy.
So people can track down your stuff because a stream is not the best place to share things like comic art and stuff like that, but I really wanted people to get a chance to sort of look you up. And
Oh,
so if you
cool.
guys check her out on Twitter, she's got
Do-
links to all of her stuff, and you can find out what she's been doing, and
Lots of cartoons and talking about cartoons lately. So
which is
very
great. One of my
exciting.
favorite things. What are some of your favorite cartoons that are out there right now?
Oh man, like I'm really into like shows like it ended already, but Gravity Falls is probably like
Oh,
my
yeah.
favorite.
I keep hearing about that, and I
watch it.
don't have TV, so I need to.
Internet.
I'm gonna have to go do that.
Is it
'cause
on? Is it on like Netflix or Hulu or something right now? I'm trying to remember.
It's
I
not
think
on
it's-
Netflix.
I think it's on
know.
something.
It's
Another one I want to watch that people have said is great is Steven Universe.
yes. Don't look it up on social media because there are spoilers everywhere for that right now. But that is a very good show too.
Cool.
My kids and I just finished watching Voltron, the new Voltron, which was brilliant. Because my 4-year-old loves it because he's like, lion rockets! Like, that's all, that's all he knows is going on. But then my daughters, who are older than him, are also super into it because because the story is really good. It's accessible to kids, but I was also fascinated. I needed to know what was happening. And it was just, it's a really cool universe too because it feels like science fiction. It's got the slick robots and stuff, but it's also fantastical and magical.
Mm-hmm.
And only occasionally do they have just ridiculous science things that drive me off the wall, but mostly not. And I actually used to work with one of the people who's on that team, and I didn't realize it for a long time until I saw her name in the credits, and I was like, "That's what she did after she went and did this? Holy crap!"
I have that moment too because like there's a lot of friends of mine who work on like Netflix shows and stuff. So like we'll be like sitting there just like watching a show and they'll tell me ahead of time like I did this, and then it's like you still know that their name is coming up in the credits, but there's still that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of my friend as soon as you see that.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I think that this friend that I used to work with, her job was, because you've got a bunch of different artists who were all contributing, and I think part of her job was establishing the look of the cartoon and making sure that everything was consistent in all of the, and just basically sort of like creating kind of the style guide is what it sounded like her job was about. And that sounds like such a cool job.
Like those like reference Bibles and those kind of things. It like seem like a lot of fun to work on.
Yeah, it's like So man, there's just so much there's so much good stuff out there these days. Like when I was a kid, like I showed my kids the original Voltron.
They were like, "Ew,
Oh,
Dad."
yeah. They're like, "What is this?" I was like, "That was as good as cartoons got back then."
So
and
true.
it was weird and crazy, but but that was what we had. And there's a great moment, and I think in the last season of Voltron, where they imagine that the original cartoon is a cartoon that was made by the people of Earth within the world of Voltron. And so you have like Pidge, who was the weirdest character on the original Voltron, is watching the cartoon and watching just the absolute weirdo that their character is on the show, and is just sitting there like, this is amazing, and they're just absolutely loving it, and they start doing impressions of the character to like to everybody else.
It's good, like, when you see that stuff. It's like, like the animators and staff are just, like, having a good time with it, so.
Yeah.
I used to watch Marine Boy.
Marine Boy, what is that?
That's before most people's time. And
Yeah.
you can almost, it's hard to find reference.
Marine like the branch of the military, or Marine like the ocean?
Like the ocean.
Ah, okay.
He was
gotcha.
a kid who swam around underwater, and I think he had a dolphin friend, but he could chew gum that let him breathe underwater. But he
I
also
wanna see this.
he also had a boomerang that worked underwater.
So I used to watch, was it Silverhawks, which was people who wanted to go, they needed to explore this area of space that was called limbo, but the only way to do it is if you were a cyborg for some reason. And so they like replaced their body parts with these like robot bird parts, and then sent them into space, which was full of supervillains. And it made no sense.
It sounds like normal space.
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. Megan wants to know if she can share Reslin.com with folks.
Yeah, go ahead. It's sort of like a sloppy looking website that I threw together with the help of a friend, but I just put up like comics and stuff as I do them, and just illustration stuff up there. But go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So Megan's probably going to post a link to that in the chat. We'll also post a link to it in the doobly-doo when we put it on YouTube.
Cool.
And yeah, so you guys should check it out. I've checked it out, and like your comics are really neat looking.
Oh, thank you.
So. I didn't feel bad about saying it out loud in case you weren't comfortable with it, because no one's going to guess the spelling from the pronunciation.
I've had people spell it and say it really weird, and I fully understand, so it is okay. I once went to a con, and they had listed me as like Resolene instead, but it was like completely different spelling. Like they didn't copy and paste it, and so like I had like a photo of that on Twitter for a while, and everybody was like spelling it like that and calling me like the con goblin. And
yeah, so well, I actually at one point wrote a novelization for a movie, and they spelled my name wrong on the title page, which was awesome. It was, I mean, at first it was distressing, and then I realized, like, how often does that happen? Who gets a story like that, right? So I decided to feel good about it. So I'm going to kick off our giveaway real quick, and then we got some more questions coming your way in a minute about comics, Robin.
oh, cool.
But first, let's do the quiz. So, hey everybody, I hope you know your weapon trivia for State of Decay 2, because we've got a question. So this is for, we're going to give away 3 State of Decay 2 pins. Are you guys ready? The question is, name the AK-47 variant with a 150-round magazine. And there's a qualification here. You've got to actually spell the whole thing right. Because Brant and I were on a podcast. We were on the Blaze Experience podcast. And people were spelling it wrong. And that can't be done. You've got to get the name of this exactly right. So we're only counting correct answers that spell it correctly and don't get half the words wrong. So we're just going to move away from this while you guys are starting to throw answers out there. And basically, if you got the right answer, then you'll be entered into a drawing, basically, one for each platform, one for Twitch, one for Mixer, and one for YouTube, and you might get a State of Decay 2 pin. So the question is, so Jesse Baker wants to know, what's your favorite comic book? Do you have a favorite comic book?
There's a lot. I feel like my favorite comic series is probably Doom Patrol. I love the old Grant Morrison run, and the Gerard Way run right now is like so like. I love it. I love it so much.
So I didn't read a lot of comics as a kid, but that was one of the few that I actually read, and yeah, it was so surreal. Like I feel like it sort of opened my mind and made me realize, like, oh, you can you know, it's not just standard superhero fare. Like you can do really, really, really weird things.
Yeah, like I started getting more involved in comics when I was in junior high, and like like indie published graphic novels. There's like some that I was like finding at stores and libraries, and is becoming more available to me than like standard like superhero stuff, which got me more interested in reading comics and eventually like making my own. And from there on, I was just making a bunch as I was growing up.
Yeah, I love it when and sometimes my kids do this too. Like when a kid first discovers something, and the very first thing they want to do is make their own. You know,
Yes.
and you want people to maintain that throughout their lives, not just do that as a kid, but like, you know, and you're one of the folks who actually has done that, where it's like you get passion for something as a kid, and then the first thing you want to do is make your own, and then you just keep doing it, and that can become something you really do as an adult.
I get really excited about just like making comics about characters that I think up, and I'm just like, yeah, I want to do that. Like
Like, why not do it, right?
my first comic was a ripoff of Garfield, but it was talking parrots, and my mom keeps being like, why don't you make that into like a whole graphic novel now? It's like, Mom, it's just Bird Garfield from when I was like 10. I don't think people want Bird Garfield.
So yeah, my 10 now she's 11. My 11-year-old daughter has been trying to learn to animate using apps, and so she makes like these the stuff she makes. It's kind of like Don Hertzfeldt. It's actually giving me a window into her disturbed psyche, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, it's I don't know. Kids can do some pretty impressive stuff. Like, you don't have to just wait till you're an adult to start trying to do meaningful things. You can do stuff when you're a kid that maybe it's not the stuff you want to publish when you're an adult, but all of that forms a foundation for the things that you end up doing, right?
Especially like in this day and age when having access to learning like new technologies through the internet is like so accessible. Mm-hmm. So like you can teach yourself how to animate or how to do like sequential art or all of this stuff so easily.
So are there any comics that are like ongoing right now that are sort of not necessarily your favorite of all time, but maybe something you think people should check out?
Oh my gosh.
Just too many to choose from?
There's too many. There's so many webcomics out there that are really good.
So what's the first one that popped into your head when I asked that, though?
The first one is like everybody knows Cucumber Quest already. That one.
I don't think I know Cucumber Quest.
You should read that.
Well, now I need to look up Cucumber
Quest.
Quest.
Like there's that.
My favorite was Appleseed.
Appleseed is good.
Way back in the day.
Oh my gosh. Trying to think of like other ones, because like I know so many people with books out there, but just everything is kind of overwhelming.
All right, well, we've got the answer to the quiz, and so let's jump over there real quick. Let's see here. Okay, so first off, let's see the answer. So the AK-47 variant with a 150-round magazine. Brant, you want to say what this is?
The Eternal Guard's Infinite Rage.
The Eternal Guard's Infinite Rage, exactly. So we had a lot of people putting up various random spellings of that, but a subset of folks got it exactly right. And so the winners we've got are on Mixer, Zork with a 0 for the O has won. On Twitch, Crescent Empress got it right, and on YouTube, Death Hour got it right. So congratulations, you three. You're not the only ones who got it right, but among all of the people who threw the right answer out there, you guys are the ones that got drawn, and you're going to get State of Decay pins. So Megan will get in contact with you guys, figure out how you're going to get those prizes, and thanks for knowing the answer, because that makes us feel good when people pay attention to our stuff.
Let's see, this guy's a powerhouse, so he needs a... There we go.
So I know, like...
It looks like a Sailor Moon wand from here.
That does?
It sort of does.
That's the completely fictional monogear bike axe. This is what it looks like.
See here. All right. So Swag Cheesehead wants to know if you've heard of right.
Nice.
Okay. Wants to know if you've heard of My Hero Academia.
Yes, I love My Hero Academia. President Mike is such a good character. Like all the characters in that show are good. Just.
My sister is the anime enthusiast in the family, and so she like points me towards the things that I have to watch, and so I haven't actually picked up that one.
You should. The character All Might in there too is probably like one of my favorite fictional characters.
Yeah.
He's just a really good dude. It's like impossible to like not like him. I mean, I'm sure that I said that, and somebody in the comments is going to be like, well,
I hate him.
I don't like him. What are you talking about? So there's that, but it's such a good comic series. It's such a good show. But yes, please watch it.
So my sister and I have been catching up with Attack on Titan, and there was this one moment where the story basically it set up the situation where it's like, hey audience, you could find out all of the secret deep lore of this series, but the way to do it is to kill off the main character. And I'm like, I was literally like, I have no idea which one of those I want you to do. Because at one point I'm like, oh, we could save the main character because we care about the main character. But I really want to know all the lore. Can we kill off the main character so I can find out all the lore?
Well, I remember too, like, when I first came into the office, I think I was asking people about, like, I want to know more about the game. And then, like, I came to you and I was like, tell me more about the lore of State of Decay. So I know we're both kind of in that area where we're more invested in the lore of what's happening and the world building.
Yeah, it's so weird how, like, that becomes sort of, like the reward for participating in a piece of media is that you get to find all the secrets. Mm-hmm. And, like, I'm reading a Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive books right now, and the way he sets up his series is he's got a certain amount of lore revelations that he's got ready to go, and he's hinting about them the whole time. And then each book, at the very end, he drops some lore on you. You're like, yes, thank you, Brandon, for giving me what I came here for. But Stormlight Archive is supposed to be like a 9 or 10 book series, and so he's got 9 or 10 books worth of lore he's teasing me with, and I'm like, I don't know if I can take it. I don't know if I can read all of this and just one book at a time get my lore drops. Like, I need it faster. Can you intravenously feed me Brandon Sanderson stuff? But
there's like shows like that too, where like the channel will be really weird about like how they pace out releasing episodes of the show.
Two?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, this is not good.
This sounds like a great way to end the stream, is to watch you just get everyone killed.
This is a cool party.
So we've got, okay, you've got firecrackers, so... this is going to go fine.
I'm fine.
So
Everything's fine.
Did you just flashbang the zombies? Is that why they were all standing there?
I guess.
So Bilbo says he likes the idea of a lore pinata. Kill off main character to harvest all the sweet
There
lore
you
that pops out.
go. That's a great plan.
Bilbo at one point really wanted to know what kinds of comics you draw. Like,
So
I mean, they can go to your site, right, to find out the details. But like let's hear the kind of thing you do.
So I really like so like a lot of my stuff is like super cartoony. But then like I also have
What?
I have influences like around like horror and surrealism too. So like one of the books that I'm working on right now, it starts off sort of like influenced by like very like cutesy like Halloween themes, and then like gradually moves more towards like 80s horror influence.
Oh
so
yeah, like slasher movie type 80s horror.
So
or maybe we don't want to reveal anything.
a little of that. Some more stuff as well. Like it'll come up on the website as it comes up. But so there's stuff like that, and then there's like another comic that I did that's just completely based off of it was when I was in college, and it was after being up all night for studying for some test or whatever, and then I just made comics about like whatever came to mind, and then just weird surreal humor came out of that too. So like I just kind of like doing stuff like that.
That sounds awesome. So, okay, we're running out of time, but seriously, people, go check out Reslin.com and follow her at Reslin on Twitter. In fact, let's put this thing up here on the screen so you guys can see. So, what they're looking at right now, yes, is your face and your name tag with your Twitter handle underneath it. And and thank Robin for coming on here, because she's a fascinating person, and I'm happy that we get to get to know a little bit more about what she's been doing in her career, and hear about the stuff she's been doing here at Undead Labs. And also thanks Brant for taking over playing the game, and I
just discovered that I apparently suck at talking and playing the game at the same time. So thank you.
Well, anybody who came to the pre-stream knows that that's exactly the problem that I have as well. Like, when I start playing the game, what I end up doing is completely ignoring the chat. And so you were at least paying attention to the people and answering their questions.
I see one of my friends in the chat. Hi, Tui. Sorry.
Well, thanks to everybody for stopping by and hanging out with us. As usual, we love you. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for being nice to Robin.
Thank you for being very nice, everybody.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Yep. We'll see you later. And we will go to the outro screen. But you can still hear our voices, which is kind of awkward, so I should hit the mute button.